UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Imavov, full card predictions and betting tips for this entire card. Let's try to do this quickly and get through this entire card in a fast and orderly manner, starting away with Hamdy, Abdelwahab versus Jamal Pogues. Two fat heavyweights are going to kick off the card for us. Hamdy isn't really looking like anything special. If we're looking at Hamdy over here, I think he has a win against Dontel Mays. And that's like his big win in the UFC. It was like a split decision. Completely unimpressive fight. He's probably going to be more likely than not trying to use his grappling and his wrestling to be able to take down someone like Jamal Pogues. And I think there's a good chance he managed to do that because it's a heavyweight fight. You don't actually know how their skill sets transfer fight to fight. Every single heavyweight is like this weird different shape of blob. You know what I mean? They all have this different extra fat in like different parts of their body. You can never be too sure with this stuff, but he's probably going to be utilizing his grappling. Jamal Pogues, on the other hand, a more well-rounded guy, definitely better on his feet than someone like Hamdy is. If he's able to stop the takedowns, I think he can easily win. But it is a heavyweight fight, so bet accordingly to that. The prediction for this fight from my end will be Jamal Pogues though. And yeah, that's what I've gone with, Jamal Pogues. It's a heavyweight fight. Bet cautiously. I haven't put any money on this, obviously, because heavyweights. Next up, Lucas Alexander versus Bogdan Grad. Lucas Alexander, I think he's been like a 50-50 win-loss in the UFC. He's only had a couple of fights in the UFC. Doesn't seem to be very high level. Doesn't seem to have very good grappling, at least. His striking is pretty good. If the fight stays on the feet, I'm expecting him to completely outstrike his opponent, Bogdan Grad, who I'm not too familiar with. I can't lie to you guys, but I do think he is a wild enough... Not a wild enough, sorry. Actually, no, I'm right. He's a bit of a wild enough fighter where this, again, is one of those fights which can go in either direction. We don't know how he looks like against some high-level UFC fighters. Lucas Alexander is not high-level by any means, but I think if Bogdan Grad can mix in the grappling and the takedowns, he should be able to take down Lucas Alexander. And with his takedowns, be able to beat him decisively. Let's roll through this card. Bogdan Grad will be the pick for this fight. Next up, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Jasmine is the favorite in this fight. That's not concerning, but that's quite surprising to me. Like, I'm looking at these two guys. Hold up. I'm looking at these two girls, sorry. And it just doesn't seem like either of them should be massive favorites. It should be close in either direction. If I'm being honest with you, Jasmine is going to be using her grappling. And I think if she can take down Mayra Bueno Silva, get full guard, full mount, she can obviously destroy Mayra Bueno Silva. I don't think Mayra Bueno Silva is that elite, and especially in WMMA. The women's fighters, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is not always to the highest of levels. Like, you're being told, oh, this guy's this good, this guy's this good, this girl's this good, is what I'm trying to say, sorry. And you'll just realize by the end of it, like, they don't actually have real submission threats off their back. So based on that, but I will say Mayra Bueno Silva is a more stylistically dangerous matchup for Jasmine than her previous opponents are, which have low grappling ability. I think Jasmine will probably be going for the takedowns, going for the grappling exchanges. I think Mayra Bueno Silva is dangerous enough where Jasmine will be somewhat respecting her on the feet. I do like Mayra Bueno Silva's elbows in the clinch and all that stuff. So if she's trying to grapple on the feet and Mayra Bueno Silva can like stuff the takedowns, she should have the advantage in those situations as well. Mayra Bueno Silva did gas out in her title fight, so I am doubting her gassing. This is a 3-round fight. She only needs to win the first 2 rounds, or 2 rounds out of 3. I think she can push through. I think Mayra Bueno Silva will get this done. I think this is a good underdog to bet on. But again, all my money that I have on this card is on the main card. It's not, none of it's on the prelims. Next up, Terrance McKinney versus Damir Hadžović. We're looking at two fighters with almost identical records. Like, let's be honest here, they both have a 15-7 and 14-7 record. For the most part, Terrance McKinney, I think every single fight in the UFC has gone within the distance. So the fight has never reached the judge's scorecard. We're expecting to see a finish right here. I think Damir has been put in this position because of his last name. Let's be honest here, this is a Saudi Arabia card. His name literally ends with Ich. Ich or V. You're probably going to be on the Saudi Arabia cards. And this could be a wild exchange. Again, two fighters not known for winning consecutively a lot. Terrance McKinney, since his hype train KO, has been kind of finished himself a few times. Damir Hadžović, you know, whatever. Like, Damir, on the other hand, has lost a few fights by, like, decision. And Terrance McKinney is not a decision fighter. So just based on that information alone, just dissect it however way you want. Terrance McKinney always... The losses that he has are by finish. And it is concerning. It's a 50-50 coin flip fight every time Terrance McKinney fights. He just seems to be a little more chinny nowadays for me to confidently predict the fight. But at the end of the day, I will go with Terrance McKinney. He's a bit more wild. I do like his striking a little bit more than Damir's. I do think Damir's only on this card against Terrance McKinney because of his last name. And I do think this is a stylistic matchup that Terrance McKinney should be able to win. Next up, Shamil Gaziev versus Thomas Petersen. Thomas Petersen, another differently but almost the same shaped blob as Shamil Gaziev. Thomas Petersen, screw this guy. Weirdly, oddly shaped. Looks like a magic bean, but just really enlarged. I don't know what to say about this guy. He will be trying to utilize his wrestling. He has utilized it in the UFC before. Hasn't been the best wrestler, if we're completely honest here. Shamil Gaziev, another fat freaking heavyweight. Not that talented, not that skilled, but has some striking on the feet and definitely has the better striking, I suppose. Has some semblance of power in his hands. He got completely destroyed by Rozenstruik by the fact that he got completely gassed. Completely embarrassing, but this is a 3-round fight. This could easily end within the distance, so you can't just bet on the gas tank being the factor in heavyweight fights all the time. Unless it's like maybe Cyril Gane versus someone like very technical but fat. The pick will be Shamil Gaziev, but I can't say I'm too confident in this fight, to be honest. Shamil Gaziev is a fat blob, but again, he could be taken down. But Shamil Gaziev can stuff takedowns, I get it. They're fat doesn't mean they're unskillful, but they're still unskillful just by the fact that they've let their bodies get into this type of shape and they've gone into a sport. Most sports wouldn't have them in them unless it's like a stand-around dart sport or maybe like an 8-ball sport. But yeah, but this shape and this body physique, or maybe bowling, is not going to cut in most sports, and the fact that their discipline level leads them to having this level of body just shows you the kind of fighters that they are. Completely terrible. I hope they both get knocked out. Oh, and there goes my light. God has been displeased by the fact that I'm shitting on another human being, but I don't care. They're terrible. Next up, Muhammad Naimov versus Kaan Ofli. I'll be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with these fighters, just from what I've seen from Naimov. He seems to be decent on the front foot, like his striking doesn't look too bad, but on the back foot again, he's very good at evading strikes. But Kaan Ofli, I can't say I'm too familiar with his game, some would say, but so I've just kind of gone with Muhammad Naimov just for that fact alone. But I could completely be wrong here. Like, I'm not gonna act like I'm too familiar with this fight. I'm not gonna give you a betting odd. You know, there's only so many hours in a fucking week, right? I can't watch all these fighters and know how their game plans are. I have missed out on Kaan Ofli. I don't know what his tendencies are. Take this with a grain of salt. I'm just going with Naimov just because I needed a pick and I just knew him a little bit more. But yeah, either direction this fight could go, in just from what I know. Or don't know, I guess. Next up, Ziam versus Mike Davis. Mike Davis will probably be looking to utilize his grappling and his wrestling in this fight. I think Ziam has struggled with that in the past. I'm not going to say he's the greatest wrestler with that kind of things, but I did think Steamroller Frivola was going to be able to give him enough pressure and put him in the back foot enough to the point where he can like utilize his wrestling, striking, and maybe land some big shots just by the fact that he can wrestle Ziam. I wasn't expecting Ziam to just KO him out cold with the knee. As Frivola was turning, I wasn't expecting that. I do like the striking of Faraz, but here's the thing. Faraz was a massive underdog at the start, and now he's closed up to be more of a, almost a pick-em kind of odds fighter. I'm not sure what they're seeing in this, but I do think you have lost some value, and you should have gotten Ziam when the odds first came out. Like, I will be picking Ziam, don't get me wrong. I like his striking. I like his tendency to the stuff takedowns. Somewhat, I like, it's hard to tell with these fighters, right? Like, because in some fights, they look good. They can stay on their feet. On the feet grappling exchanges, they can hold their balance, but when they get completely caught off guard with like double legs and blasted, they get put on their back and can't get back up. It's that kind of stuff that you're betting against in this fight. I think Mike Davis can put enough pressure on Ziam to easily beat him. Like, when I say easily, I mean he could like beat him every single round. I'm going to be trusting Ziam to potentially get the... I'm not known for his power, I won't lie to you, but I do think he can like, you know, piece up Mike Davis here. I'm going to pick him to piece up Mike Davis here. Mike Davis is the more athletic of the two guys, in my opinion. If you just look at those two, you can just tell that he's more athletic. You watch them fight, you can tell he's more athletic. He should be the better fighter here, but again, I'm going with Ziam. Maybe I'm just kind of warped by the betting odds, but there's more value in Faraz. I went with him. Next up, Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. Vinicius. I'm so bad with the pronunciation, but here's the thing. Vinicius Oliveira has been in the UFC for a couple of fights. He's been here for a hot cup of tea. He's won both of his fights to his credit, and his last win was against Ricky Simone, who I can't tell if he's a good win or not, because he has gone on a massive slide. Just based on that, I'm not sure, but he did out-decision him, beat him convincingly in that fight. Nurmagomedov, another weird fighter where we know that he's talented, he's clearly skillful, he's clearly good at fighting, but he always loses like that top 15 caliber fighters. Like Barcelos, I believe, bet him, who also beat Peyton Talbot, to be fair, so Barcelos is a beast. But yeah, he's the prospect killer, Barcelos. The prospect killer. And Jonathan Martinez, who was proven to be top 15 level, just not as good as Jose Aldo. Anyway, Nurmagomedov, good fighter, and here's the thing, right? Oliveira will shoot takedowns. He has that in his game. He does do that a lot. Nurmagomedov has a very nasty guillotine choke. I think he can squeeze the life out of Oliveira quite easily. I don't think this will go to the submission though. I just don't see it happening via submission personally. I think it'll be on the feet exchange. I do think this goes to the decision. I do think the fact that this isn't happening in the middle of the eastern part of that place, Saudi Arabia, I believe this is happening in, or is it Abu? I think it's Saudi Arabia. I do think Nurmagomedov will get any benefit of the doubt of any close fight like that fight that he had against Jonathan Martinez. If that fight happened here, I do think he wins that fight. But anyway, the pick will be Nurmagomedov. There's too much going in his favor, and I do like his technique and striking. And if I'm being honest with you, I wouldn't put money on this fight whatsoever, but I've just put money on every single main card fight. I just felt like doing it. I don't give a shit. And that's one of the people I bet on. Screw this. Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. You gotta be doubtful after Sergei Pavlovich got completely outskilled by Tom Aspinall and Volkov. Like with Aspinall, you're like, okay, he got caught, but Aspinall is a very he's a very skillful striker. He's very precise with his striking. He knows when to land and when to back off, and he knows when to like go all out and hammer forward. Against Volkov, though, he got completely shut off completely by Volkov. I was expecting him to be able to KO Volkov, finish him. I thought he'd be more athletic, but he got completely pieced up from a distance. Couldn't really do much about it. Kind of looked amateurish. Kind of looked like the rest of the heavyweights that aren't in the top 5. That aren't like more like all the fighters that aren't like below 15% body fat or 20% body fat, whatever. Like he looked like one of the fatties. Weird, but he's fighting one of the fatties himself. But Rozenstruik is another skillful kickboxer. This is kind of scary. I will go with the power of Pavlovich, though. I think the power of Pavlovich trumps this technique of Rozenstruik, who was still outskilling someone like Tuivasa, but it's Tuivasa. It's hard to say with these fighters. I'm going to go with Pavlovich, but I wouldn't be... okay, I would be surprised. But it's not the craziest thing to see Rozenstruik win. But then again, I saw Volkov kind of like just land the right shot on Rozenstruik and finish him off. I think Pavlovich is at least good enough to do that. Like he has the power to do that at least. So I'll be picking him. I have money on him. I've parlayed him with someone in the main event. Michael Venom Page versus Sharaputdin Magomedov. I've made a whole video on this. Go watch the video on this. I think Michael Venom Page beats Magomedov in any place that isn't the Middle East, but I'm still going with Michael Venom Page. I think sometimes you can just have fights that are so decisive that it has to go to the right guy. I don't think this will be one of those fights. I think it'll be a close fight, but I'm just hoping on the integrity of the judging. I don't know why. I should have probably gone with Shara, but I saw the price line on Michael Venom Page and it just completely contorts my entire viewpoint of every single fight whenever I see an underdog. Michael Venom Page is a very good striker though, very rangy, very long. He is a big welterweight, so I think the fact that he's making transition to middleweight shouldn't be the biggest of deals. Shara isn't the biggest middleweight himself. It's not like, oh my god, this massive middleweight, he's going to fight this little welterweight. It's not like Colby Covington moving up to fight like Khamzat Chimaev at middleweight. That wouldn't make any sense. They're kind of similar in size. I think Michael Venom Page will do just fine in this fight. I'm not expecting the wrestling of Shara Magomedov, and if you look at the interview that Michael Venom Page just gave, he said he wouldn't mind using some of his own wrestling, at which case, I mean, Shara hasn't shown anything of resembling high-level grappling. Like, he was controlled a little bit by someone like Bruno Silva. I just see Michael Venom Page getting this done. I think he'll out-decision him. I don't think Shara's little spinny attacks will work. I think Michael Venom Page will make you look very amateurish if you go for like flashy style. I think Michael Venom Page is super technical. That's not the way to go about it. I think he can edge out a close win, but again, a close win isn't enough in the Middle East. But I'm going to go with Michael Page. I know what it is. Sometimes I feel like going with the, ooh, the judges are all evil. Sometimes I don't. Alright, sue me. Don't sue me. Adesanya versus Imavov. The main event of the evening. I'm going to go with his Adesanya. I am underrating Imavov. I don't know what it is in my mind. I just can't unsee. It's just Imavov, right? It's just got no aura. If it wasn't for Adesanya, this fight would have zero. Imagine Adesanya not being in this fight, and instead the main event is Imavov versus someone that isn't in the top 5. It would just die. Marvin Vittori. Bleh. You know what I mean? The Middle East would want their money back. But the fact that it is a big star like this Adesanya, who remains a big star, by the way, I still think he brings eyeballs to himself. The fact that it's on a fight night is kind of crazy, but I do think he gets it done. Listen, right? Maybe I'm just going too much off of aura alone. But Imavov, I've seen his striking. He's a point fighter. So is Adesanya. Adesanya is the king of the point fighting. Like, if you do that to Adesanya, he will be able to, you know, he'll outpoint you. That's just what he's good at. When he fought Sean Strickland just kept the pressure forward, kept going forward. It wasn't fearful of his counter striking and got the better of him. Adesanya did show in the DDP fight that he can be the aggressor. He can put in the pace. He has said that he won't do that in this fight. I don't like that. I do wish he had the gas tank to be able to do that. I don't see Imavov having this incredible grappling. I think, if anything, he holds Adesanya against the cage. I think he maybe gets him down a little bit, but Adesanya is underrated. Not underrated. He has fairly rated wrestling takedown defense. He's amazing at it. Everyone agrees. I think he can get this fight done. I do think he outpoints Imavov. I think it's going to be a boring fight. I think Nasruddin will be trying to... Listen, the thing with Brandon Allen was he didn't even try to strike with Imavov. The thing with Jared Cannonier was, as the fight was going on, Cannonier was doing well until that early referee stoppage. These things have been happening in Nasruddin Imavov fights, and he got completely shut down by Sean Strickland. So it's not like, oh, well, Adesanya's at a point where he loses to Strickland, but Imavov isn't. He also got completely shut down by Strickland. At best, it was a 3-2 win for Strickland. At worst, it was a 4-1. I thought it was a 4-1. But that's just Nasruddin Imavov for you. Like, I just feel like it's... I do think this fight will be close. Than you would think. 49-46, I wouldn't be surprised. 48-47 doesn't surprise me at all. But I do think Adesanya wins. But Adesanya losing does surprise me. That's a fall-off I think I'm not ready for yet. But anyway, the bet will be is Adesanya. As you can see, I've parlayed him. In total, I have $500 on this entire card. So make sure to like, share, subscribe. Follow my overall profits. I'm over $2,000 up since UFC France last year in September. So just make of that what you will. By March, I'm hoping to get to $3,000. You know what I mean? But anyway, like, share, and subscribe. 221 subscribers I'm at. I would love to get to 250 subscribers. I would love if you guys hit that subscribe button. Follow my channel for more videos like this one. Check out some of my other content. And I'll see you next time. Like the video.